You're watching this video for a reason. Maybe you've seen the headlines, AI will replace programmers, or the coding bubble has burst. Or maybe you've tried learning to code before, followed tutorials, built a to-do list app, maybe even signed up for a bootcamp, only to find yourself no closer to that six-figure developer job everyone talks about. Look, I get it. 8 years ago, I was a 30-year-old English teacher for kids, making barely enough to get by, with zero technical experience and absolutely no direction in life. Today, I'm a senior developer who's made over $300,000 annually, who's managed tech teams at companies doing 7 to 8-figure revenues. So when people ask me, Phil, is it still worth learning to code in 2025? They're expecting a simple yes or no. But the real answer is more nuanced and far more important for your future. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why most people who try to learn coding fail, why AI isn't the threat everyone thinks it is, and the specific approach that's actually working in 2025. With my student Booty from the UK, who just landed a job at a major bank making 60k pounds a year. That's 15% above the average entry-level developer salary there. This isn't theory. This is what's actually working right now. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. The coding landscape has fundamentally changed in 3 critical ways that most learn to code advice completely ignores. First, the entry bar is higher. 5 years ago, knowing basic HTML, CSS, and a bit of JavaScript could land you a junior position. Today, companies expect even junior developers to understand complex systems, frameworks, and tools right out of the gate. Second, AI coding tools have eliminated certain types of development work. If you're planning to make money writing simple CRUD applications or basic websites, I need to be honest. Those opportunities are rapidly disappearing. Third, the traditional paths into tech are breaking down. Bootcamps are churning out thousands of graduates with identical projects, and CS degrees are teaching theoretical concepts that are often years behind industry standards. But here's what most people miss. These changes aren't eliminating opportunities, they're transforming them. Let me share a concrete example from my own experience. When I was just 4 years into my programming career, I was working at a software development firm when one of my clients, a mental health application startup, invited me to join as lead developer. It was a huge step up. We had just 3 months to completely redesign and rebuild their app. As I worked on this, something clicked. I realized every app needs authentication, profile management, and usually some form of chat functionality. These are the core components that make up about 90% of what most applications require. The real opportunity wasn't in learning how to code these features from scratch every time. It was in understanding how to build modular, reusable components that solved real problems. This insight completely changed my approach to coding, and it's exactly what separates those who are thriving in tech in 2025 from those who are struggling. Before I tell you what's working, let's look at why most people who try to learn coding never reach their goals. A major mistake is what I call the tutorial trap. You watch video after video, follow along with projects, and think you're learning. But when you are trying to build something on your own, without step-by-step instruction, you freeze. You've learned to follow directions, not to solve problems. I see this with so many aspiring developers. Take Jocelyn, a 32-year-old workforce analyst who spent $15,000 on a bootcamp only to discover she couldn't build anything independently. She could copy code, but couldn't create solutions. The second major mistake is the breadth over depth approach. Many learners try to become full-stack developers overnight, jumping between languages and frameworks without mastering any of them. This creates the illusion of progress without building actual competence. When I was learning to code, I initially made this exact mistake. I was jumping between Python, JavaScript, and Ruby, thinking I was being versatile. In reality, I wasn't getting good at any of them. This is also why most bootcamps set you up for failure from the start. They try to teach you 5 different languages and frameworks in 12 weeks. A little HTML and CSS here, some JavaScript there, then throw in some Python or Ruby, plus a database language. They market this as making you full stack. But what they're really doing is ensuring you don't master anything. It's like trying to learn Spanish, French, and Japanese simultaneously. You end up speaking none of them well. What actually works is focusing deeply on one language until you reach real proficiency. Once you truly understand the core concepts in one language, transitioning to others becomes much faster because you're transferring knowledge, not starting from scratch. This is why self-taught developers who obsess over mastering JavaScript before touching anything else often progress faster than bootcamp graduates with superficial knowledge of multiple languages. The third mistake is focusing on the wrong metrics. Learning to code isn't about the number of courses completed or certificates earned. It's about your ability to solve real problems with code. It sounds obvious, but I see a ton of people who go down the course and certificate rabbit hole, convincing themselves that that is what's gonna get them the job or hit that income goal. Now let's address the elephant in the room. AI coding tools. Are they going to make human developers obsolete? The short answer is no, but they are changing what it means to be valuable as a developer. Here's the reality. AI tools like ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot, and others are incredibly good at generating code for well-defined, common problems. If your only skill is writing basic code that follows a clear template, then yes, AI can do your job. But here's what AI can't do, at least not yet. Understand the nuanced needs of a business, architect complex systems, identify which problems are actually worth solving. I've integrated AI tools into my own development workflow, and what I've found is that they're not replacing me. They're making me significantly more productive by handling the routine parts of coding while I focus on higher level thinking. Think of it like this. When calculators became common, they didn't eliminate the need for mathematicians, they just changed what mathematicians spent their time on. The system is happening with coding. But there's a silver lining here. Leveraging AI effectively actually requires a stronger foundation in the fundamentals. You need to understand the principles of good code, the patterns of problem solving, and have the creativity to direct these tools properly. Without foundation, you'll just be generating subpar solutions without understanding their limitations or how to debug them when they inevitably break. This is exactly why my student Gabe was able to land a junior developer role at Amex, making well over 6 figures within just 90 days. He didn't just learn to code, he learned to think like a developer, which meant he could leverage AI tools effectively while still providing unique value that AI couldn't replicate. So if the traditional paths are breaking down and AI is transforming the industry, what actually works in 2025? I've identified 3 principles that are working for successful new developers right now. Instead of starting with a language or framework, start with the problem you genuinely want to solve. When you're invested in solving a real problem, your motivation stays high and your learning becomes purposeful. The most successful new developers aren't trying to learn everything. They're becoming exceptionally good at solving specific types of problems. Booty, my student from the UK, focused exclusively on financial data visualization. He didn't try to become a full-stack developer overnight. Instead, he became the go-to person for one high-value skill set, which is how he landed the job at a major bank, making 15% above the market rate for junior developers. I'd be happy to revise the principle to focus on skill acquisition. Here's a suggestion. The developers who progress fastest aren't just consuming content. They're actively building and breaking things through deliberate practice. While most people spend hundreds of hours watching tutorials and reading documentation, successful developers spend that time writing actual code, debugging real problems, and implementing solutions themselves. My student Shay didn't waste time with endless courses. He dedicated 80% of his learning time to actually writing code and solving. Every time he faced an error or challenge, he worked through it systematically rather than jumping to the next tutorial. This deliberate practice approach is why he's now making multi-5 figures as a freelance developer working with executives from companies like IKEA. In today's market, the ability to solve unexpected problems and adapt to new challenges is infinitely more valuable than theoretical knowledge, and you can develop that ability through consistent focused practice. These 3 principles form what I call the AI Proof Code to Cash system, an approach to learning coding that's focused on building real solutions to problems you care about, rather than following generic tutorials or boot camps. Let me show you what this looks like in practice with a 90-day roadmap that you can take from zero to your first significant coding milestone. Don't start by randomly picking a programming language. Instead, identify a problem you genuinely want to solve, research what technologies would be best suited for that problem, learn the fundamental concepts of those technologies, break your project into small, manageable components. When I was building the mental health app I mentioned earlier, I didn't try to learn everything about React Native, Node.js, and Firebase simultaneously. I started with the authentication flow because it was a contained component I could complete, which gave me the confidence to move forward. Now that you have direction, focus on building one component of your solution at a time. Use documentation and targeted learning resources. Join communities focused on your chosen technologies. Share your progress and challenges publicly. This is when you're developing the problem-solving muscles that AI can't replace. You're learning not just how to write code, but how to think through problems methodically. In this phase, integrate the components of your project. Test your solution with real users. Document your process and decisions. Connect with others working in similar areas. This approach keeps you engaged because you're building something meaningful rather than following abstract exercises. You're developing the skills that actually matter in the job market, and you're creating tangible proof of your capabilities. So, is it still worth learning to code in 2025? My answer is yes, but with important caveats. It's worth it if you're willing to move beyond the outdated just learn to code mentality and adopt a problem-focused approach. It's worth it if you understand that the value isn't in writing code itself, but in your ability to solve problems creatively using code as a tool. And it's worth it if you recognize that leveraging AI is good, but you need to put the time in to actually learn the fundamentals first, because building that foundation of problem solving and creativity is something AI can't replicate, and it's what will make you valuable regardless of how tools evolve. The fact that you're still watching this video tells me something important. You have the dedication needed to succeed in this field. Learning to code in 2025 isn't the easy path to wealth that some make it out to be. It requires genuine effort, strategic thinking, and patience. But for those willing to embrace this reality and put in the work, the opportunities are still tremendous. I think the most valuable thing I've learned in my journey from English teacher to senior developer isn't actually about code at all. It's about the importance of having the right guidance at the right time. Looking back, I wasted at least 6 months going down the wrong paths, building things nobody ever cared about, and trying to learn technologies that weren't actually valuable. That's time I'll never get back. What's ultimately changed everything for me was finding mentors who could show me what actually mattered, who could help me avoid the common pitfalls and focus on the skills that would actually make a difference. If you've resonated with what I've shared today, you might be interested in the approach we take in our community. We focus on building real projects that solve actual problems, with guidance from developers who've been exactly where you are now. It's not for everyone, and honestly, that's by design. We work best with people who are serious about making this transition right away. But if you'd like to learn more about how to help people transition into tech, click the link below. It'll show you the next steps of what it'll look like for you. Either way, I hope this video has given you some clarity on whether coding is still worth learning in 2025. The landscape has changed, but for those willing to adapt, the opportunities are still incredible. If I can do it, you can do it too. Coding saves lives.